Hey folks, welcome to goRIA with Jeff and Chuck. I'm Jeff Benjamin, senior columnist with Investment News. And Chuck, who are you?
Okay, I am Chuck Failla, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sovereign Financial Group and RIA enthusiast. And we are here with Daniel. And Daniel, who are you?
I'm Daniel Needham, president of Morningstar Wealth.
All right. Thank you very much. Welcome, folks. Thanks for being here. I see only a few of you want those front seats. They look like the most comfortable. I don't really understand that. A little bit about goRIA. goRIA is a brand new or relatively new franchise or enterprise, I guess, from Investment News. It's all about the breakaway movement. It's designed to provide all things from soup to nuts, a complete blueprint and roadmap for going independent. This podcast is just one of the things we do. Chuck and I, we're co-chairs and partners on this thing. We have a quarterly webcast. We do a Wednesday afternoon live stream talking about what we're seeing in this space. And like I said, this podcast is every other week. This is the first time we've ever done this live. So, but we have done podcasts before. So, Chuck, why don't you tell us a little bit about goRIA from your perspective?
Yeah, you bet. So the way I like to sum up goRIA, so I'm a breakaway advisor myself. I was in the broker-dealer world for probably 22 years, most recently with Raymond James for about 20 years, a firm that I absolutely love. I was on the IBD side, independent broker-dealer. Then about 4 years ago, I decided to drop my 7, drop my 24, and go completely RIA. And the way I describe goRIA, the Investment News franchise, is it's what I wish was around 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I was looking at what do I need to do to go RIA, right? So what we're intending to be is essentially a one-stop shopping solution for everything you want to know about going RIA, whether it's custody, compliance, technology, everything you need to know, things you want to avoid, mistakes to avoid, things you don't want to avoid. So I'm really excited to be here today. And I think, there's no better topic to talk about today, since we have Daniel with us, than RIA technology. Before we get into that, maybe just a quick showing of hands. How many people here in the audience today are in the RIA space? Okay, great. How many people here are thinking about going RIA? Do we have any potential breakaways here? Okay, brave enough to raise your hand. We're not going to tell your branch manager.
We're going to be taking names.
No, we're not going to take names. You're not on video. And we're certainly not going to report you to the regional director. But this is a great place for you guys to be, for both of you, right? If you're in the RIA space or looking to go. So let's get right into it, Daniel, if we could. Sure. We're talking RIA technology today, right? And you're the perfect person to have for this. What are the main components of an RIA tech stack? What should these guys be thinking about?
Yeah, so I think you covered it, Chuck. When people are breaking away from a wirehouse, a broker-dealer, you're really starting from scratch. So really basic things that you took for granted at your firm are going to need to be added. And so things like portfolio accounting, getting all of your client data into one place. CRM system set up so you can actually, serve your existing clients, but then also run your practice, prospect. You need to be doing things like billing. So collecting the data on your clients' accounts and then billing them regularly. You need to be putting together client reporting, household reporting, tax information. You need to be looking at pretty basic things like document storage, security, things that you probably hadn't even thought about before. Building portfolios, so looking at research, so data research, portfolio construction tools. You want to be able to manage risk across those portfolios. You want to be able to do risk profiling, maybe financial planning. Then you want to be able to do rebalancing and trading. You need to be obviously connected into your custodians, multiple custodians, so it needs to be multi-custodial. There's a lot of things, and there's a lot of new specialist sort of pure play technology out there to help just run your practice more efficiently as well. So there's a lot, and I don't think you have to really think about that as much when you're a part of a broker-dealer.
That's right. One of my favorite stories, so Sovereign Financial, we're sort of a small aggregator. So I talk to advisors all the time that are going from the broker-dealer space to the RIA space. And there's one guy in particular, and he was with one of the big wirehouses. He was like, I really want to go RIA, but how do you guys get business cards? Was actually the question. I was like, I don't know, you kind of go to a print shop and you get some business cards. But the point is, when you're working for one of those big firms, especially, where they're doing really everything for you, right? They're getting your business cards, they're doing your portfolio reconciliation, all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes that you don't even know that's happening.
That's right.
And that's one of the big transition points when you're going from the broker-dealer, where everything's being taken care of for you, over to the RIA space. And also, I should remind the audience too, if you have any questions, I think this makes for a good opportunity for a little Q&A, makes for an interesting conversation as well. So if you have any questions on the RIA space, going RIA, please feel free to toss it up. We've got about 15 or 20 minutes. Yeah.
Daniel, I think it's important to point out that Morningstar Wealth, that you're president of, it was created about a year ago, right? How much of that was the focus on the breakaway movement?
Yeah, I think so. The Wealth Group was created at the beginning of 2022, so late last year, early last year, late 2021. At Morningstar, we've got a number of different capabilities where we're serving RIAs, we're serving wirehouses, we're serving broker dealers, we're serving individuals, we're serving financial institutions, but all the pieces that we hadn't really brought together to serve advisors more holistically. And for us, we could definitely see that the RIA space is growing, and we have a number of products that have been serving RIAs for decades, and so we serve in our portfolio accounting product serves about 2,300 firms. But we definitely see that movement, independence. It's not just in the US, it's everywhere. All the core markets that we work in, we see fee-based, independent, self-licensed. It's just the trend. So being able to bring the pieces together for us is definitely related to this increasing adoption of RIA and independence.
And you are seeing a lot of breakaways come to you, right?
Yeah, about a quarter to a third of the new firms that sign up to our portfolio accounting service off Morningstar office are effectively breakaways.
That seems like a good percentage, considering that you're relatively new. Morningstar's not new, obviously.
That's right.
The platform is,
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, advisors know more. One of our key differentiators really is the data, the research, and the tools that advisors have used at their wirehouses, their broker dealers for many years, and so that's kind of embedded in the solution. So it's a relatively easy transition for the advisor. But look, I think there's other firms out there that do a great job as well. So.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. You know what? Maybe we'll just do a little bit of a deeper dive just on the portfolio accounting. And I recall when I was breaking away, I didn't understand the need for that. Why would you need that? And you don't think of it because your broker dealer is providing it for you. But what is portfolio accounting, and why is it important for RIAs to have that?
Yeah, one of the trickiest elements of being able to run a practice or run multiple practices is having one source of truth for the client data. That's it. If the client data, you don't have it in one place, it's not accurate, then it's really hard to do all the other stuff you have to do to run your practice. And so getting client data right is number one priority. And what often happens is, you'll have clients that maybe have an existing account at one custodian or brokerage firm. And so, you end up with a relatively complex amount of data. And if you've got to bring that data in yourself and reconcile it, it's really time consuming. And there's a point where it's hard to get data out of the custodians after a certain number of years. So having a portfolio accounting capabilities where all of the client data goes, all the transactions go, so you've got one place that you can go back and have a history since you've been serving the client, and maybe you can get historical data even before you were serving the client. That allows you to do longer term analysis for the client, reporting, billing, all kinds of stuff, but that's the center. And so if you don't have that client data sorted out, it can be really complex to run an RIA firm.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that I think is unique about the RIA space, if you're at a broker-dealer, your information's at that broker-dealer.
That's right.
But if you're an RIA, it's very likely, even if you're not multi-custodian, you might have some annuity feeds from fee-based annuities coming from XYZ provider, or you might be multi-custodial. And I love that phrase, one source of truth, right? Because I think what's often used for those portfolio accounting systems is you bring in all the data from this custodian, that particular provider, getting it all normalized, reconciled, and then you could do your risk analytics from there. You could do your financial planning from there. You could do your rebalancing from there. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the other points is, and you touched on this with the annuity data, most accounts are going to be, IRA, they're going to be tax deferred, you're going to have taxable accounts, they're going to be brokerage accounts. But there's also these accounts that, are not sitting with your custodian, they're sitting somewhere else. And so you need aggregation.
Yes.
So you need a way to bring the held away accounts in so that you can have, bringing that information in, reconciliation ready data. So we have BILE accounts, which I know a lot of RIA firms use directly or indirectly.
Yep.
So it's not only the direct custodial feeds that you have, but it's also bringing that held away information in, so you have that broader view of the client's household. That helps you provide holistic advice. It helps you provide broader reporting, but also gives you an opportunity to advise on more of the client's assets. So
And
there's a growth
perhaps
opportunity there.
Bill on more of the client's
That's right.
assets. Let's
That's
be
right.
honest, right? I mean,
Exactly.
that's a great thing about the RIA space.
That's
You
right.
have so many more flexible options for how you bill.
That's right.
And that's to the advantage of the advisor, of course, but it's to the advantage of the client as well, because you can bring it all under one roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions? Because this is being recorded, and you can be on the goRIA podcast by just raising your hand and asking us anything. Oh, there we go.
Yes, there's a gentleman back there.
So you just got to push people a little bit,
Yep.
Chuck.
Got it.
If it's a
They
hard
all
question,
have questions. They just need a first guy.
Hey, Christianosopoulos here. Just started with Angelo covering RIA. So, Chuck, maybe a question for you. If an advisor is looking to break away, is it better to start their own RIA, or should they join an aggregator such as yours, and maybe the pros and cons of each?
Yeah, that's a topic we cover all the time. We actually call it tuck or no tuck. For you Seinfeld fans out there, if you remember that episode, tuck or no tuck. So the way I like to say it is, you could have $5 million of AUM and a laptop, and you can start an RIA today, right? You absolutely can. I would say, economically speaking, it doesn't make too much sense to start your own unless you have a burning desire to have your own, which I fully respect. But economically, it doesn't make as much sense unless you're at $100 million mark. And the reason for that, at $100 million, that's the line of demarcation for SEC registration versus state registration. State registration is a hassle, right? Because you got to get registered in every single state you're working in. You do not want to do that, especially if you're small. You don't have the resources for it. So I would say the short answer is, if you really have a burning desire to have your own RIA, there's so many resources out there. Morningstar is just one of many, where you can get set up. There's a ton of technology, a ton of support. You could have, like I said, $5 million on a laptop, you could set it up. Economically, $100 million is realistically where you want to be thinking of maybe doing your own. And then it's a matter of, do you want to be a business owner, or do you want to have just the freedom of working as you wish by tucking into an existing RIA? Dan, you have some thoughts on that?
it's a tough question. I think,
Yeah.
do you want to run your own firm and be
Right.
responsible for everything, which is making all the choices around the things that I mentioned and that Chuck mentioned as well? Or do you want to be able to just move into a place that can help you scale quickly, but do it in a way where it's a very different equity position for you, very different income position to you than if you're a part of a wire or a broker-dealer. So, but I think both have got some pretty compelling pros and cons to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Daniel made a great point there about breaking away, going independent and running your own firm, or breaking away and still being part of some other operation. It's not a subtle difference, as I'm sure all of you know, but the full move to independence, that's why a lot of people do make the move to break away. But and on something that Chuck said about the $100 million threshold, we did a podcast which hasn't been published yet with Alicia Dowell of Keybridge. Is it Keybridge
Keybridge
Compliance?
Consulting, yep.
And she talked a lot about that $100 million threshold from a compliance standpoint, and she's a former regulator from the state of Florida.
That's right.
And she talked about the stuff she saw for the state registered advisors, because inevitably you're going to have clients in other states, or with assets in other states, or business in other states. So you have compliance on top of compliance challenges when you're not at the. So I'm not a financial advisor, but I can see the point for, at least until you get to the SEC registration level, to becoming a part of something else, but in still being able to break away. There's a lot of opportunities out there. We write about them all the time.
Absolutely. Great question. Any other questions before we kind of continue on with the dialogue here? No? Okay. So let's pivot a little bit. So one thing we like to really be known for at goRIA is specificity, right? And if you're going to break away, you're looking for your tech stack, you clearly want to talk to Morningstar. Who else is out there?
I tend not to promote my so and I think self-directed learning is always the best. So, But there's a lot of choices. There's a handful of firms that are really doing a really great job. And again, it's going to come down to the size of your practice, the complexity of your practice.
That's what I want to talk about. Yeah.
And so for us, where we've generally specialized is in the small to mid-size RIA. You're relatively small. You're just leaving a breakaway, or you've had a small practice, and maybe you haven't even been using a portfolio accounting reporting. You've been kind of pulling together things yourself. You reached that level, so that's where we've really specialized historically, because the workflow's relatively simple. They know our data, they know our research. We're a one-stop shop. So if you look at the T3 surveys, we've got number one market share for sort of the all-in-one portfolio accounting reporting service, because we've got everything there. But there's no doubt, like the more complex use cases where someone's going to go to some of those larger, that's got a really large practice alternatives, they're going to go to some of the other firms.
Right. What do you define, or how are you defining small to mid-size?
I mean, it's the sub 500.
Sub 500, yeah.
Okay. So, and generally you're going to be in that sort of 500 to 100 range.
Yep.
But we've got some relatively large firms as well, and again, the complexity of the business can often drive your needs more than the size.
That's right.
But obviously, purely from it's got a high operating leverage business, so there's a point where minimum AUM matters and your ability to cover costs and things like that. So AUM does play a role, but so does complexity.
Yep. And just to be straight with the audience, again, we pride ourselves on specificity. Some of the other firms, and you're certainly not going to just talk to one custodian when you're making your breakaway decision. You're not going to talk to one tech provider. Morningstar is a fantastic solution. Orion is out there. Tamarack is out there. Black Diamond is out there. And they all have pros and cons, right? And I've researched a lot of them. I'm really big on due diligence. And I can honestly say there is not one better than the other. But there is one that's going to be the best fit for you, right? And that's kind of what you want to go around.
Yeah.
And how would you suggest people understand that? Like, how do I know what is the best fit for me?
Yeah, you call Patrick Ashby, our head of sales, and he will help you make the best.
Yeah.
No, I think if you read Modern Marketing Now, and there's a really great book by the chief revenue officer from HubSpot, and I can't remember his name right now, but it's a really excellent book, Sales Acceleration Formula. And a lot of buyers these days, you're not selling, it's informed buying. So you're doing your own research on the internet. You're reading blogs. You're reading. You're listening to goRIA podcasts. You're informing. So I think that's the best way to do it, is be informed, and then when you have the right amount of information, is reach out to multiple firms and ask for a demo, and then weigh it up. And there are some tech consultants out there that specialize in helping you pick an RIA portfolio accounting and portfolio management service. And I'll just say this up front, it's tough to switch. So the cost of actually bringing a specialist in, a consultant, to help you make that decision can actually be a really high returning long term, because the ability to pick the right service and then not change in 3 years' time. Obviously, we like it when people change from everybody except ourselves. So,
but you might have seen me cringe when you said that. That happened to us.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to use names because it doesn't matter. And the firm we left was not a bad firm, but it was a very bad fit for us. But Daniel, to your point, we got involved with this one firm, migrated all of our data. Within 6 to 7 months, we realized it was the wrong firm to be with, our technology stack, and we had to switch. And that is a horrible, horrible process, especially after we just switched custodians. Yeah. Now we're switching our tech stack. So the best advice would be do as much due diligence before you pull the trigger, because once you're at your custodian, once you're at your tech stack, you can change. It is hard to change. Really hard to change.
Chuck, one thing on that, we're kind of winding down on time here, is what pro tip would you offer as somebody who's been through this, and like you just talked about a mistake, not a mistake that you made, but a lesson that you learned.
Yeah.
I mean, what could you impart on
what I should have done, and I really fault myself for not doing this, is talk to other users of that technology, right? You definitely want to talk to the head of sales, but you want to ask for some people. Let me talk to some of your current users that are about the same size as me, with the same needs as me. That's going to be your best bet, without question.
Yeah, that's good advice.
We're almost out of time. We have any other questions? Because I'm gonna go to Daniel and ask him real quick. You mentioned about the small to mid-size. Is there a point of that is just not going to work for Morningstar? $25 million or something like that, a brand new breakaway, and you guys they need more before they can get to you?
No, I mean, look, we price per account, and so we're set up and we think, at that lower account level, we've got very competitive pricing, and we've priced that in a way that it's easy for somebody to land with us who has a relatively small book and can grow into it. And so we really are the dominant provider in the small end of the RIA market, and partly for that reason. And so we're able to help advisors, and we help firms and the advisors in the practice, build the accounts up. And again, it's the complexity. A firm could stay with that setup to 500 million or $1 billion. It really depends on how they want to run their practice, whether they buy other practices, whether they modify their value proposition as they grow. So, but for us, we're really good for that smaller RIA that wants that all-in-one experience and is just broken away, and doesn't have a super complex book. And but for us, as our focus within the wealth group is to really bring our different pieces together: bio accounts, all the data and research. Portfolio accounting, we've got a TAMP capability, we've got direct indexing. How do we bring all that together in a seamless experience so that as the RIAs get larger, we can be the place that they can stay. We don't want the reward at Morningstar to be, well, you've got to 500 million, your reward is to switch to somebody else, right. Which is quite painful, as you pointed out.
Without question.
Yeah.
Do we have 2 minutes?
We have less than that, but Chuck, you got final thoughts here.
Okay, so this could be a whole nother podcast, but one thing that I think is really important when you're looking at your tech stack is the idea of all-in-one, most-in-one, or mix and match, right? So the Morningstar solution is really focused on the all-in-one, which has a hugely important role in the industry. Some others are going to be, I'm going to get my CRM from here, I'm going to get my rebalancer from here, I'm going to get my risk analytics from there, and then you're going to use your portfolio accounting system to tie it all together, right? So that concept, as you're exploring your tech stack, the first question is all-in-one versus mix and match, both of which have pros and cons.
All in one.
Right. Okay.
Yes,
well, folks, we want to thank you for being here. This is, like I said, it's our first time live. We know you all have a lot of questions. You just didn't want to ask them because it's on camera. But follow us at goRIA. Okay, go to InvestmentNews.com. The upper right hand corner of the menu bar has got a goRIA tab. We got a lot of stuff coming. It's not just for breakaways. We definitely focus on breakaways, but it's a lot of practice management stuff there, and we appreciate all your help. And also, reach out to Chuck or myself and let us know if you see something that you would like us to focus on or do a podcast on, or maybe we'll even have you on as a guest.
Hit us up on LinkedIn, Twitter.
Yep.
All
right, thanks a lot.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Daniel, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.